Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of That's Kinda Cringe, Bro, with me, Matt, and Alex. Episode today, we got Food Killers. Feature of the day, we got Where the Hell Is It? Slap of Justice, and Shlockbusters. Up first, we got...
What do we have on our schedule? Hold up.
Alright.
Deltarune.
Yeah. Alright, yeah, so...
Alright.
Alright, so for the feature, we're going to be looking at 5 games that have been in development for quite a while. Not necessarily a negative, it's not necessarily a Tortanic sort of thing. It's
I was just wondering where the hell is it?
Exactly, yeah, what's going on with it, yeah. So lesser known games, in my case, but most...
Lesser known, popular, maybe, it doesn't matter. It's what you want to play.
Exactly, yeah, but majority of it's AAA. Alright, first...
As I said, the first game would be one known as Undertale. Undertale's successor, I guess, Deltarune. And if you don't know about Deltarune, you probably haven't used Twitter before, because that's where literally everything about this game has ever been posted for some unknown reason. Every update that he's had so far, even the release and hints toward it, were revealed on Twitter back in October. And that's where the only information you're actually going to find. If you check out any news article, they're not really interviews with Toby Fox, the creator. It's all just things that are quoted from Twitter or TwitLonger.
Yeah.
So...
Wait, first, October... the demo was released on October, wasn't it? For
31st, yes,
okay,
right at the end of the month.
All right.
And with the release, he had, there were some funny issues. We're not really here to talk about those, but one was if you clicked uninstall, it would uninstall the entire directory that had the game in it. That was a fun bug. But since then, it's actually recently been released onto consoles for free, just as it was on PC. So you can just download Deltarune anytime you want on any platform. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're wondering where the hell is it? Because some people might not actually know, but... Toby Fox made most of Undertale and Deltarune on his own without help. He had some help from a sprite artist, I believe Temmie. But other than that, anything involving the game, involving the story, that was all him. It was his original ideas, it's all he wanted. But for the scale of Deltarune, he said that it's not humanly possible to do that again. For example, he started Deltarune as soon as he released Undertale, which I think that was, 2015 now? That's 4 years ago?
Sounds right.
So, if it was about 3 years at the time of Deltarune's release that he finished basically the first tiny part of the game, and it took him that long on his own, how long do you think it would take to really do this game? And how long would it take before he gets burnt out? And that's the things he kind of brought up in his TwitLonger. So the big thing he talks about is he wants to build a team. So some quotes here are like he had trouble starting tasks and concentrating because it's difficult paying attention for such a long period of time. It's just a lot of especially with the translations, because that's a really big thing about Undertale. It's an indie game that has so many different languages. And Deltarune came out with all the translations. And it says right here, the game's completion could take anywhere from a year to 99 years, depending on his efficiency level. And that kind of just brings out the point that he needs a team. But with a team, he could lose his secrets. That's another big thing about Undertale. Everyone really loved all the, the secrets. It's little things you could find. So he wants to try to keep those, but he also realizes that it's not possible. So as far as we know, he hasn't built a team yet. He should be on the way to building a team. And I really hope we see it soon. If he does have a team and he's just not telling people, we could see this game as soon as by the end of the year. But there's no official release date. There's no Kickstarter like Undertale had, and he quoted another Kickstarter, I haven't even finished those damn clocks, which if you're not aware, one of the backer rewards was a clock that's Undertale themed, and he hasn't shipped them out yet. He's been working on it. So he wants to go in this entirely as a passion of love, and that's a worrying thing, but it's also kind of a great thing. 'Cause it's a worrying thing because passions of love could die out, and we might never see this. But it's a great thing because if it comes to fruition, it'll be a lot better than we could have ever expected. As for where it's at, God only knows. I don't even think Toby has an idea. As for when we'll get it, hopefully sometime in this timeline.
Yeah, I haven't played the demo for Deltarune, but it is pretty self-contained, isn't it? It doesn't really hint at a sort of a, full thing.
So he actually talked about that too because people were worried. They were saying, well, what ending of Undertale led to Deltarune? What world is this? How does this connect? And he straight up said, your world in Undertale, your choices you made, and your endings you've played, those are still there. They exist in an entirely different realm of existence. They're not connected whatsoever. So Deltarune, he says, has no supposed connection. That's what he also said in this, because he wanted people to enjoy it without worrying about, oh, if I had made better choices in Undertale, would that affect Deltarune? Nothing you did in Undertale affects this at all. But with that being said, there have been some secrets that hint to like a hidden character from Undertale that might be a connecting piece. We're not going to go into it at all because it's a lot of effort and it's not the point of this. The point is Deltarune might never come out, or it might come out as late as this year.
Yeah, but if it doesn't, at least it'll be if it doesn't, at least
if it doesn't, it's already left its mark on gaming society. It was insane how fast that game came out. It came out, I believe, a week after Red Dead Redemption 2. And I remember I had bought Red Dead Redemption 2 and I still haven't played it because I got so obsessed into Deltarune that I didn't put the time into it. It was really a great game. It still is. Play it if you have the chance. And if you've never played Undertale, that's also a good game. I'm not sure. I'd say maybe wait for it to go on sale, or watch someone else play through. But it's the choices that really make the Undertale. But Deltarune Chapter 1, for just a Chapter 1, you'd be amazed at how much content you get.
Alright, so moving on, we got the second of our 5 games. It's pretty lesser known. Kickstarter game back in 2013. It is Paradise Lost First Contact. Now, yeah, this is a pretty old game. Like, it's so old, in fact. It still, came out during the time of Shantae Half Genie Hero, Mighty Number 9. It even has a crossover between Hyperlight Drifter. I don't know if that's anywhere still in the game's files, but it's that old that one of the updates mentions it. So it's a platformer stealth game. It kind of hinges on being inspired from Metroid, Castlevania, Oddworld, Metal Gear even, which I don't think you would want to do that for a... I don't think you would want to be so bold as to say a 2D game for Metal Gear, but I think it's more so between Alien Isolation, the DS game, and Oddworld. So they're pretty right there, all right? But the game's kind of been revamped a couple of times. The gameplay, I'd say, in 2016, 3 years later, the game had a pretty big gameplay, per se, a gameplay revamp. So the game. So I didn't go over the game. So the game is pretty much you're a plant, and you're trying to escape your lab. So basically, you can do the usual self stuff like go inside cabinets, ducking in vents and whatnot. And then as you progress through the game, there's an RPG mechanic where you can do stuff like throw out a little seedling to control. You can throw poison seeds to knock guys unconscious. Looks pretty alright. But what's interesting about this game is in my opinion, is the development. It's pretty well documented how they do the pixel sprites. So yeah, it's pretty it's reminiscent of Atari style graphics. So it's
so. When was the supposed release date proposed for when the game was on? You said Kickstarter, right?
Yeah, Kickstarter. Yeah.
So what was the original proposed release date?
Yeah, it was back in December. I think it was December 2013, and the release date was way back in December 2014. And through the updates, I've only seen one, like right now they're saying it's going to come out 2019, no specific date. They said it's back in September 2018.
All right, yeah. So as from what we're seeing, they're taking their time to just keep improving. And has it been have they improved the game to a point that it's acceptable to push it back so far, or is it such menial things like cleaning up some sprite art and just little things like that? Yeah. Or is it something big? Yeah. Like you can see the difference in how fluid the demos look or something. I don't really know why they would push it back so much.
I get you. Yeah, I've been passively following. Like I try to look through a lot of the updates. I'd say I looked through about 10% as they came out. They're pretty focused heavily on the sprite work. Like they animate by the layer. There's a ton of frames and stuff. Like they're really passionate about the techniques they use. So they document it. When the problem is that they do seem to revamp it a couple of times. Like the UI specifically, I post an example.
Almost like they're changing their minds instead of trying to make it better.
Well, here's the thing. The UI, for example, I posted a picture for you to see. The thing is, the viewers can't see it, but it starts off like it looks it's got a lot of detail. It's got it's the problem is like they part way in 2016, I'd say they decided to make the UI vector instead of SpriteWorks, and they said it was deliberate to so it wouldn't blend in with the gameplay, something like that. Personally, I think it's terrible. You shouldn't do vector and sprite work. You should just keep it all sprite work or none of it. There shouldn't be any in betweens. But you can see the UI. It just loses detail. It doesn't have any shading. It looks flat. It looks minimalistic.
It's over the time. It just becomes so simplistic and almost bland even.
Yeah.
Like the original idea, I feel like the best one out of all these that are here would be the second.
Exactly, yeah.
Because the original looks a little too over the top. It looks like they tried too hard, a lot of wacky details. The second one looks like just the right amount of balance.
Exactly, you got.
But it just feels like they kept losing faith in their artistic style, and they kept going down and down.
Yeah, it's
they kept reducing detail, and eventually it just got to whatever the hell that is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you can even see the UI. It's got some glow on it. The game uses a lot of post processing. They don't say it uses real time lighting. They say it's post process. They say it's it's baked in lighting or whatnot using the sprites. I know whatever. It's kind of a modernized sprite thing. It doesn't look as good as that one that one sprite game on Xbox 360. Let me see what it is. Let me see.
Okay.
The Last Night, that was it. Yeah, it doesn't look as good as that, even though, because the thing with Last Night is that it fully commits to utilizing real time effects and post processing. But this game, it kind of only goes halfway. But now the problem I have is the gameplay, because, for example, it says it's inspired from Castlevania, right? But back in a few years ago when I was looking at the updates, you climb the stairs, but like. It was really convoluted. It was really stiff. Like they could have took the mechanic from Castlevania where it's just you just press up and then the arrow and you immediately get on and get off. But this one there was like a dedicated button to get on and off. It was a lot more sloppy. You couldn't even fall down from the ledge. It was I don't even know what was going on. Like it's like they didn't even play the game. I mean, they herald Castlevania so much it didn't make any sense. Yeah, but. And then it's pretty much a two-man project, for as far as I can see. One of the guy has health issues that kind of pushes the game back. And then,
it seems as if there's just a lot of problems keeping a potentially good game from releasing, whether it be the revamping things that seemingly don't need to be revamped, personal health issues, which that is completely excusable.
Yeah.
Take the time you need to get better. The game's not going to finish if you're bedridden or dead. Instead of sleeping a little bit and then going right back to work, take a long rest, and then you'll be healthier for a longer time.
Well, the problem I see is I don't know how you need to control development for sprite games as far as like the finished visuals, as for like in comparison to the feature completion, because.
Well, if it is a two-man game,
mm-hmm.
they might not have outside help. Like, there might not be other people working on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, if one person only knows how to develop the one things, like, if, per se, one person's in charge of artistic sense, general game story, and, things like that, but the other person's in charge of making the game more fluid, in, making the sprites look better, like the mechanics side...
Yeah.
Even if one of them falls sick, which we already know they did, that leaves the other one shit out of luck.
Yeah, that's true.
They can't really move forward because not only do they not know what to move forward with, if the artist is sick, the person that's behind the game mechanics doesn't know how to design the things. He doesn't have the overall designs. Vice versa, the artist can't really do the game mechanics, or he's not too great at it.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Each person is probably dedicated to one thing. One guy's the artist, one guy's the programmer. Yeah, that makes sense. And then you get the fact that they have part-time jobs. They got them last year, so the game's crawled down a little bit slower. But the good thing, however, is it looks like they're on the final boss, which looks like there's got to be 3,000 layers of artwork. They said like of sprite work. It's the biggest thing they've worked on. Yeah, so it looks like it's pretty much going to be a content complete, I would say. And then the feature complete, it's a little bit of ways off. They said they got this thing where there are phases per se. So, like for example, one part of the game it's like it's a well lit lab room, and then another way through the game everything's all crashed, like everything's all been toppled over or whatnot. So it's got a little bit of ways to be feature complete, looks like, but content complete is almost there. I just don't know.
So, when do you think it would come out? If the how you've seen development, where it's at now, how you've seen things go so far. What do you estimate? What do you guess?
The fact that they're saying it's no specific date 2019, that was back in September, and updates have only gotten slower. Like as a general course over time, like it looks like it's been an average of once a month. Back in like 2014, this one's now once every 4 months. I would have to say it's gonna be. I don't even see it coming out in 2019, to be honest, because they're gonna spend so much time on the cleaning with the visuals. Especially because they have revamped their pipeline at least 3 times. I know they're pretty visually heavy on it. I think that guy, the artist, he's gonna make the game take a bit longer to make. I don't even think it's gonna come out in 2019. It's gonna be Q1 2020, to be honest.
For a game announced in, when did you say?
Yeah,
2013?
yeah, 2013. Yeah, around. Yeah, it's not as old as Stars.
2013 to 2020. That's 7 years worth of hype, and as of late, with any game that has that many years of hype behind it, it's just gonna ruin the launch of it.
Yeah, well,
people get too excited, they get too over obsessed in it. So, keep your expectations high for a game if you're interested in the game like Paradise Lost, but at the same time, don't expect God's work. It might be really, really good, but I don't think it would be godlike.
Yeah, they would have to learn a lot from their early days of game design, because, I mean, yeah, honestly, they're clearly not pulling all the right aspects from the games they're being inspired from.
Well, maybe it'll turn into something good. It might be they want to take the aspects of games that people don't normally look at, and then make something good out of that to shine on those aspects.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, good point.
We won't know until we play it.
Yeah.
And we won't know when we play it till we get more updates, which is apparently once every 4 months.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Third game on our list, we have Final Fantasy VII Remake. I mean, sorry.
That is not true.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, sorry. No, I'm gonna cut that. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm gonna cut that out. Yeah. Right.
No, you're not gonna cut
yes,
it out.
I am.
We've got Animal Crossing on the Nintendo Switch. So there isn't much to talk about because Nintendo decided, hey, we're not gonna give you any information, and they've been doing a lot of that lately. They even said that they don't want to do that as much. And the second they said they want to stop announcing games without releasing any info, they announced Metroid, they announced Bayonetta 3, and then of course Animal Crossing. We're only here to talk about that. What do we know about it? Well, most people only know about the reveal from back when Isabelle was added to Smash Bros. This, I believe, is around November 2018. October, November, around there.
2017.
Isabelle got announced 2018.
You sure? 2018. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Animal Crossing Switch hasn't been announced for very long.
Yeah, man. Sorry. I know. Yeah. Time passes. A little weird.
I know. It feels like forever ago because we're not getting updates. Nintendo's been really kind of shifting away from all the. I don't know. It feels like they're trying to let the hype die down. So if they do something else with it, it'll be even more excited. But to me, I don't feel like that works because I'm dying to get any information on it. Yes, but at some point, I'm just gonna lose interest in all this. It's how far do you have to push until it gets interesting? The only thing we know is that it's coming out on the Switch, and it's coming out this year. We have no idea if it's gonna be the same gameplay aspects as New Leaf. Maybe they're gonna go back to what it was like on the DS and the GameCube. Is there going to be multiplayer again? They might remove that. There's a lot of things that they might do. There's a lot of things they might not do. some of the big notable things from the 3DS one were you were the mayor, and there was actually quite a big group of people that weren't a huge fan. Being the mayor has its ups and downs, so what fans tend to want is to not be the mayor this time. It's honestly what they're gonna do, I have no idea. The only thing we know is, and I actually sent this as a little pic to you,
Yeah.
Isabelle on Twitter has actually made tweets from all her international accounts saying, oh, this is the reveal trailer. This is the same day the trailer was released. And each one says along the lines of, hope to see you again soon. And that more or less just confirms for me that Isabelle's going to be returning, which isn't a huge thing. I know there's probably a lot of you going, well, duh, it's Isabelle. But there's actually a group of people that didn't want her to return just because they associate it with being the mayor. And I don't know if that's just a personal friend group thing that they really didn't like New Leaf, or if it's an actually widespread thing. But I'm just happy to see Isabelle returning, because even though New Leaf's not my most played Animal Crossing, it is the one I hold closest to heart. And if we can get a lot of gameplay aspects from that in this one, I'll be very happy. It does have a 2019 release window. Nintendo has been known to push back games before. I mean, Yoshi's Crafted World, I believe, is 2018 release window, and it's coming out soon, or it just recently came out. So I'm hoping they really stick with this. We'll probably see it third or fourth quarter this year, if not first or second next. Other than that, what we know about it is squat. We have zero information.
Yep. Speaking of third quarter 2019, we got some rumors that Final Fantasy VII Remake, the big one, the fabled one, will be coming out around that time as well.
I feel like it's been ages since they showed gameplay.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, they got those cinematic trailers. Yeah, I know. All I remember is that one cinematic trailer. I think they're in that, that the big city of Final Fantasy VII. The guy, Clouds attacking the soldiers. That's all I know of.
With the Final Fantasy 15 engine, eh?
Yep, just that one. Yeah, whatever they're good. It's like Project Ignis, whatever this engine's called. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a couple different opinions on that engine. Personally, I wasn't really against Final Fantasy 15 as a game. I saw its flaws, but I did enjoy it. But I have a lot of real big Final Fantasy friends that they despise it. They think that engine's the worst, and they think that Final Fantasy 7 would flop if it's on that engine. My personal theory is that once 15 kind of flopped because its sales didn't really represent what they were going for, they might have scrapped a lot of development on the 7 remake because they were banking on 15 being amazing. But I'm sure you have more to share.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it depends on when they scrap development as a result of that, because 2 years in development, I'd say, in 2017, if I'm right, because it was announced 2015, and then CyberConnect 2, who made the Ninja Storm games, and the Dot Hack game, they did work on it for about 2 years, but then Square Enix moved it internally, and they dropped basically they basically dropped everything CyberConnect 2 did, even though they claim that they reworked some of it. I mean, it's basically a whole entire reboot of the game. It's absolutely terrible. And then you got the fact that recently, the dev teams had to combine because there was enough. Clearly, despite the fact the director says that it's coming along nicely, it's not, because you got all these mishaps happening, and whoever's pointing to the fact that they said Square Enix said to their investors they're going to get a lot of money in 2019 quarter 3, quarter 4. I don't know. I don't think it's. The fact that you'd bank that in Final Fantasy VII Remake, I don't know. They have to have something like Final Fantasy whatever Final Fantasy X on Switch, or whatever it is they haven't announced yet. Some other remake. They're gonna put that out. That's gonna boost up their earnings.
They have to have something bigger than the 7 remake, because as it stands, if they rush the 7 remake out, it's not going to be good. Let's be honest. If they don't do enough with the 7 remake, it also won't be deemed good, because the consensus is you can just go and buy a copy of 7 right now for $10-15 at your local pawn shop.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah.
So why would you buy a new game when you can just buy the original that's basically the same but not 1080?
Yeah. Plus, I think it has shown that Final Fantasy 15 has kind of shown the fact that Final Fantasy is not, it's not a moneymaker. It's not a guaranteed cash cow. because they had to axe the DLC. Yeah, they really do have to play it safe this time around.
Unfortunately, that it was the case for 15. I really liked 15, and with the updates they've put out, I feel like 15 has turned into a really good game. But it's just got such a low-standing history that no one's going to give it the chance, and that just makes it really harder for them to know what to do with Final Fantasy VII. If the fans won't play the new gameplay aspects that they add to 15 over time, how will they ever know what to do with the fans won't give them their testing, so to speak.
That makes sense, yeah. But so Final Fantasy VII Remake is supposed to be a full-on action thing. It's not like Final Fantasy. Well, I mean, yeah, is it more akin to Final Fantasy Type 0, would you say?
I haven't played Zero. I wouldn't know, to be honest.
Well, have you played Crisis Core? Because I think it could be more like that.
I have played Crisis Core. I feel like the gameplay aspect they were going for was originally supposed to be 15, and they're going to fix the problems that 15 had and try to make Final Fantasy VII more actual Final Fantasy. 15 wasn't turn-based, the spells weren't good, and it was heavy button mashing, and that just somehow made combos. If they were to make this, I'd have to say they'd go back to turn-based entirely, but with good graphics. That would make a better Final Fantasy VII. Maybe make a hack and slash mode, if you really wanted it. But to have the full 7 experience, it needs to be.
Yeah, there was another Final Fantasy game that did it, right? I think it made you wait between like waiting, active time and full on battle. Like, wasn't there something like that? I don't think it was.
Real-time combat was introduced into Final Fantasy 12, I believe.
And it gave the option to do a turn-based, right?
And I don't remember. I haven't played 12 in quite a long time. All I know is that it was poorly received, which I loved 12. I feel like it was only poorly received because it wasn't traditional. And 13 tried to push it a step further, and you've played 13. Apparently it's bad enough for you to drop your mic. So...
best wishes to that, yeah, Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, we'll see it eventually, hopefully. The last one we're talking about isn't actually one that's actually announced. It's one that has been theorized, the people have been thinking it should be a thing. People have been talking about this for 11 years, which is a long time for a game to not
it's
even
the hallmark Square Enix.
It's Square Enix's best title ever released for their DS, personal opinion, which is The World Ends With You, and we're talking about the successor, The World Ends With You 2. So... if you don't know what it is, it's a Nintendo DS game it was very creative when it came out. You controlled both the top and bottom separately with each hand. It was quite hard, but once you got used to it, it was really fun. And the story was great, the art design was amazing, the music, everything about it was just really good. I think the only thing that held it back a lot was it's on the DS. And you might be thinking, oh, well, wasn't this put on the Switch? That's a port of the iOS version, unfortunately, meaning that it's not a good port. I wouldn't recommend it. Although I love the game so much, your best bet's probably just to play it on the DS, whether you emulate it or buy it. But The World Ends With You 2, there have been several times where they hinted at it, where they talked about it. There was things on a Japanese, like a mobile site that they had for the game, little hints there. There was, and the most recent one would probably be an interview with Nomura, who is the creative producer and character designer for the game. And I've got it quoted right here. So it says he's gone to a bunch of different events and conventions in different countries, between the 11 years after the release and the time of the interview. And a lot of them have asked them, well, what would you think of a sequel? And he said the same thing, is they've been looking for an opportunity for a long time. There are a few times when they tried to get it started, which is probably what those hints were, 5, 6, 7 years ago. But it just never came to fruition. As it says, time passed without it ever coming to realization. When Final Remix came out on the Switch, he said it's his intention of making it the last time he works with the game, so he doesn't want to work with the original game anymore. He wants to let it just kind of shine where it is and deteriorate. Whatever he wants to do, that's it. And he says he thinks it's his last chance to create a sequel. So a lot of people weren't
Yeah,
really
couldn't
sure how
that
to
mean
take
that he just like swaps like developer like directors? Wouldn't that just mean that like the sequel does that?
Well, it does, but it doesn't. It's his last chance to create a path for it. So if nothing happens here and the world ends with you kind of dies out because they didn't do anything to follow up the release of the Switch port, which was not very well received to begin with, I sincerely doubt they'll ever do anything. And that was what I thought since the release of the Switch port, until Kingdom Hearts 3 came out. And you might be thinking, well, Kingdom Hearts is Kingdom Hearts. This
Yeah,
is
man, what are you,
completely
stupid?
different.
There wasn't even The World Ends With You world. What are you talking about?
Well, that's where you're wrong, kiddo. In Dream Drop Distance, they actually introduced the characters, which is the 3DS game. It didn't have its own world, but the characters were in Traverse Town, which is normally a place where when a world doesn't exist, that's where the characters will show up. And it wasn't much, it was just Sora. Sora met some of the gang, Riku met some of the gang, and a notable part mentioned was see you in Shibuya. Sora saying he was going to visit them. The basis of The World Ends With You is it's a bunch of teenagers who've died playing in a game for their life so that way they can be reincarnated. Come back to life, basically. It's overseen by angels of death, I believe. It's been a long time, my terminology is most likely off. But it takes place in, I believe, Tokyo or Akihabara. It's not Shibuya. So that was a really interesting thing to hear. Why, how is he going to go to Shibuya when they're not even in Shibuya? And
This is a spoiler warning for Kingdom Hearts 3. If you want to skip it, head to 31 minutes and 49 seconds.
at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, Sora supposedly dies. It's not really sure what's happened. He uses the power of waking too many times. He just kind of dissipates from existence. He's gone. And they posted an update that added a different ending where you get to see a little hint of what comes after Kingdom Hearts 3. It's got Riku in a world based off of a world that they kind of set in the game itself, so it's not something we've seen before, but it looks like it could be an upcoming Square Enix title, which might be 15 Verses, which is what people are guessing. Verum Rex is what it was called in the game. But we also see Sora appear in Shibuya, which is a very notable thing, because the entire concept of The World Ends With You is that it's about dead people fighting for their life. If Sora did die at the end of the game, which we're not really sure on right now because it's very clouded, then if he appears in Shibuya, that could be an indirect... if they're making Verum Rex as a standalone game, why wouldn't they make Twelve 2 that it's standalone game? They could have Sora and Riku just as guest characters in these games. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a Kingdom Hearts world. It could mean something entirely different. As for what it actually means, we have no fucking clue. Nomura just does not want to do anything, or doesn't want to let us know. Square Enix hasn't said anything. We haven't seen anything. Maybe we'll see something at E3. I'm hoping we do, because if it's just another Kingdom Hearts world, I'd be happy because we'd get something else for the Twelve series, but I'd also be kind of sad because I really want to see, just something else done.
As in just something being concluded?
Yeah, just whatever they've been hinting at for 11 years. I want to see that come to fruition, And they've had us on the edge of our seats. They haven't been shoveling us info and then canceling. It's been little tiny pieces here and there, and now we're just at that point where it's all or nothing. So as for release time, we might never get it. I honestly, if it is a thing, it's gonna have Sora in it, which means that Disney's gonna have to license it. It means there's gonna be a huge thing behind it.
Oh yeah, man! If it goes the Sora route, it's over, man.
It'll take years to come out. I can almost see that, unless they've been working on it in secret alongside Kingdom Hearts 3. But with the other games that Square Enix has published recently, within the few recent years, I doubt it. Like, they're working on the 7 remake. They did 15. They did Dissidia. They did Nier Automata, Kingdom Hearts. They've just got so many games under their belt that to say, oh, we're working on Twelve, we've been doing it for 5 years, that I doubt it. It's if it's coming out, it'll probably be another 5 years, maybe 6.
It's going to be about 6 because I mean 5 is pretty generous, man. You know they're doing pretty bad.
It's something that a few people. I'm not gonna say it's popular, but it's something that a few people have been really looking forward to, but no one's heard anything about. And it's a shame to see such a good game die down. It had a really bad port on iOS that lost a lot of traction. They used the exact same port for the Switch after hyping it up so much. That lost even more. And it just it got a ghost release on the DS as well. I don't think they advertised it very much. It was just a couple magazine entries in Nintendo Power. So it's a game that came out forgotten, and it's a shame to see it kind of go that way, and I hope it doesn't end that way either.
All right, next feature we got. Do you want to jump to the next feature, Alex? You got anything left to say?
That sounds about it for, so that's where the hell is it, I guess.
Now, moving on to our second feature, we've got Slap of Justice. Now, what this is Alex has been taking a couple of years of law school. So what he's going to do is he's going to...
I took law school in high school, and I've got some funny stories.
Oh, man, I thought it was even university level. All right, then pardon me. Alex,
it was university level. It was university level, but high school university.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so yeah, Alex has taken 2 years of university level law school. So what he's going to do, he's going to tell me a case. He's going to tell me the verdict, the little bit of the law, law specifics behind it, and then we're going to talk about it. So first up, we got the Twinkie Killer, or as we're calling it today, the Sponge Cake Killer. All right, next what we've got.
So, this was a kind of funny one. This set precedent for a lot of future cases, mainly involving mental health and things involving, drugs, poison, stuff like that. Not poison or drugs as in like, oh, they're dying, or that's the reason. But it's about a man who got his sentence reduced from first-degree murder to manslaughter because he claimed he ate a metric crap ton of out-of-date Twinkies.
Yeah, now what's the difference between murder and manslaughter?
So, there's 2 types of murder before we go into manslaughter. There's first-degree murder and second-degree murder. So first-degree murder is any intentional murder that is willful and premeditated. So what that means is, let's say you stole my pizza. And I was really angry, right? I got pissed. And I sat there and I thought for 2 weeks straight about how I wanted to kill you. And I killed you, but it didn't work out. So, I got caught. They would see that I had malice, I thought ahead, that I planned it out. That would be first-degree murder. Second-degree murder is, let's say I bump into you. Or you bump into me, it makes me angry, and without even thinking on the spot, I just snap your neck. That's not premeditated. I didn't leave my house that day planning to kill you. I left my house that day just planning to do whatever I was doing. In the end, it was my choice to kill you, but it was not premeditated. So that's the difference between first degree and second degree murder. So he got it reduced from first degree murder all the way down to manslaughter. I'm reading the US definition, so the US definition is just worded differently from Canadian. But it looks like you have 2 types of manslaughter, which is voluntary and involuntary. So voluntary manslaughter is also called a crime of passion. It's an intentional killing that involves no prior intent to kill, and it was committed under circumstances that would cause a reasonable person to become emotionally or mentally disturbed. So I believe, like an example of this would be, you're a kid, your parents are fighting, your dad starts killing your mom, like choking her to death. So you grab a knife and throw it in the back of his head. It's not murder in first or second degree because under the emotional circumstances, that's how you thought you had to do it. You're a kid, you're weaker than him. That's how you did it. Or I think other examples could be you've been like the famous ones in horror movies and stuff that you get kidnapped with your friends, and if you kill one of your friends, you get let go. You're not going to be convicted of murder if you're let go. It would be manslaughter. You weren't emotionally stable enough to make the decision. That's voluntary manslaughter. Like you killed someone, you killed someone, but you weren't emotionally well enough to make for them to say, oh well, you're a murderer. Involuntary manslaughter, the easiest one's just drunk driving. It's you were driving around, you accidentally hit someone. It's an accident. But involuntary manslaughter is just straight up you accidentally killed someone. Equipment breaks at work, you were drunk driving, you left your cane in the road and someone tripped and fell and cracked their neck, stuff like that. So, at the time of the case, I believe he got it reduced to just manslaughter. They don't normally define voluntary or involuntary. That doesn't matter much in the terms of prosecution. And the reasoning for getting it reduced is what makes everyone surprised, and it's what names this case. It's the Twinkie case.
Yeah, this took place in the U.S., didn't it?
Yes, this is a United States case. This was in San Francisco in 1979. That's when the case took place. And I believe it was 1978.
Yeah, that was, yeah. You said that before, yeah. You told me a little bit about this, just I forget the specifics about the reduction.
So, I think it's better to talk about the case first. And then, we'll talk about what happened exactly. Because we do have full documentation of the days of the murder and leading up to it. Exactly what happened. It happened in the San Francisco Town Hall, I believe. Was this San Francisco? Yes, San Francisco. It was the murder of Harvey Milk and George Moscone, and it was committed by Dan White. So, Dan White, he was... It's as it says here, he was a conservative Vietnam veteran and former fireman who served on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors alongside gay rights activist Harvey Milk. In November 1978, White resigned, saying that he couldn't support his family on a city supervisor's salary. Mayor George Moscone told White he would consider reappointing him if he chose to come back. White changed his mind and asked to return. Moscone, however, under pressure by Milk, whose gay rights ordinance had been voted against by White, refused White's reappointment. So basically what happened there was the mayor said White could come back if he changed his mind. White did change his mind, and Harvey Milk just said, no, he's against gay rights. I don't want him back on council. And the next day, White loaded a .38 revolver, went to City Hall. He went through a window so that way he wouldn't have a weapons check. He walked up to Moscone's office, shot him 4 times, walked down the hall to Milk's office and shot him 5. And he finished each one with point-blank shots to the head. He turned himself into the cops later that day and admitted everything. So everything's documented. He even said, I did this. At trial, his original defense was depression, diminished capacity due to depression. So basically, he couldn't have premeditated the killings because he was depressed. He shouldn't be, he shouldn't be convicted of this. And then the big thing came out. It was that he had only been eating junk food. So that's what they kind of focused on in that case. They focused on that he ate so much junk food, which were, I believe, slightly past expired Twinkies given to him by a family member, that the amount of chemicals in the Twinkies messed with his brain to make his depression worse, so he could not think straight, thus making him kill someone when he normally would not have.
Yeah, I would have thought it would have been called the Twinkie defense because it's junk food, and the guy's last name is Whites, so Twinkies have whites in them. But, yeah.
No, it was actually a case of Twinkies. That's all he'd been eating for days. I'm just trying to read through some of this.
Man, we got great levels of research, man. We're reading articles off a webpage. Can this show get
this?
Any
Oh no,
better?
no! This is the exact same webpage I used when I did my thesis on this back in high school.
You didn't use any of the sources?
This is the only source I needed. This is actual documentation from when it happened.
Oh. Right.
But it was kind of interesting because there was a lot of aftermath involving this, and he was supposed to get life in prison, and it was reduced to only 7 years 8 months, that's astoundingly small. I don't know what life in prison is in the U.S., but in Canada, I believe it's 32 years.
I think life in prison is 60 years in the U.S.
Okay, so to be reduced from 60 down to 8, basically.
Yeah.
That's a huge jump. White has a complete chance to go on with his life after all this happens. And it was very negatively received by a large amount of people, especially the Pride community in San Francisco, because he openly killed the one person that was going for gay rights. He's a known person to have been against gay rights, and now he's receiving next to no punishment for killing someone who's been pushing so hard for their own rights. It was received it was received negatively in that aspect from the gay community, to the point where they actually marched to City Hall, they smashed windows, they set fire to cop cars, like they were going the whole 9 yards over this.
Yeah, actually, I got a little update on the life imprisonment. Actually, it turns out since life just means they sometimes attach a minimum amount of years that you can't be on parole, so it could be 15 to life, 30 to life. It's a little,
Okay.
it's a little, yeah, it seems a little bit more leeway. It's a little.
All right, there's not much else they talk about, but basically his defense was Twinkies. Ate a shit ton of them. That led him to not think straight. If I recall the original documentation my teacher showed me, it was Twinkies. A doctor backed it up. They used science mumbo jumbo terms to confuse the jury, and the jury fell for it, convicting him of only manslaughter. Which is big, because if you don't know how it works in the court system, I believe the U.S. is the same as Canada. Have you ever heard of precedent?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, for those of you that don't know what that means, basically, because he got convicted that way, if someone else were to, let's say, wait an entire week, eat nothing but Twinkies, and then kill someone and turn themselves in, well, the precedent would be someone else has done that previously, they got 8 years in jail on account of manslaughter. So that would lean their case heavily towards that. And that's a really big thing, because that's the difference between letting a full-blown murderer walk loose and convicting people who are genuinely not in the right state of mind because of something that happened.
Yeah, and presumably nobody actually did a case like this, a sort of murder like this, because...
No, this was a big one that opened a lot of people's eyes. I think it was actually 1980s is around the time people started thinking, what the fuck's in our food? And this probably had a huge role to play in it, because if he was blaming Twinkies on the reason why he killed 2 people and openly turned himself in, that's got to make anyone thinking, anyone who was eating Twinkies at the time think, what am I eating? Of course it didn't do too much, because if you look at our food today, like, you can't say anything on that label. I can guarantee that. Like, you don't know what half it is, right? If I grab this can of pop here and I look at it, like, of
Pardon
course,
me, Alex. I know what color 5 is. I don't know what you're talking about. I know what food coloring is. My food's good enough. I know exactly what's in my food.
But do you know what sucrose acetate isoborate is?
No.
Isobutyrate, sorry.
That's pretty acidic, man.
Exactly. So, like,
just have some frickin' not acidic food, man. Have some base foods, man.
Sounds like a lot of effort, man.
Exactly.
Anyway, this case led to a huge precedent for the U.S. It was just stupidly, like, astounding how it went down. It's something that you think back on and you go, why? How? It doesn't make sense. I'm not sure what else to really talk about. He was convicted of murder. He got tried for he was trialed for murder, convicted of manslaughter, because he ate Twinkies. So all I can say is, if you wanna get away with a few years off for murder, just eat a shit ton of Twinkies, I guess.
Or just, you may want to see if this actually still has precedent before you do that, because I'm not gonna, just if I'm gonna give bad advice, if you're gonna give bad advice, do it right, okay?
So, Twinkies were only mentioned once in the case. That is a big thing. They call it the Twinkie defense, but it was only mentioned once. He ate a metric crap ton of junk food, most notably being Twinkies. And it was said the chemicals from that junk food led to what he did. People, they study it a lot in law school, especially high school level law. It's a really great case to just kind of look at and go, what do you mean? Because it gets the brain thinking. And that's an important thing, because especially with the jury system, if you don't know anything about what's going on, how can you make a proper choice? And that's what happened there. The jury had no idea what exactly was really happening. They heard fancy mumbo jumbo, they went along with it. It set precedent, but I don't think it set it in a way where you could get away with murder. That was just kind of joking around. It set it in a way that people are a lot more careful, especially when dealing with murderers and such. Like, think about it. Like, if you were called for jury duty and they began talking about, let's say someone drank a scientific chemical that led them to be crazed, foaming at the mouth, and they murdered 23 people.
Well, yeah, surely I would say,
And
I would agree with it. Yeah, but
they were
surely,
thinking,
I'm sure
but,
they have experts. With
if that's just it, the experts work in, defense of whoever. If the experts only use the medical terms, you're not going to understand those terms. Like, okay, so if it's a case of a scientist, right, who made this thing, he knows what it is, and he drinks it, and then kills everyone and comes to and is like, oh, I've killed people. Well, if he knew what it was and he knew the dangers associated with it, why did he drink it? The scientist expert that might be at the case might explain it in a scientific method that might be too complex for a jury to understand. If that is the case, how can you make a proper decision? And I really do believe that's what happened here. It was just too much, like, if you're going to talk about, like sodium bicarbonate or shit like that, that's a more common one. But if you're going to use big words like that, you're going to talk about how it affects the brain, and you're going to talk about, depression and enhancing depression using junk food, it doesn't make much sense, especially not to, like, 1980s people who, back then, depression, it was a thing, but it wasn't as researched into as it is today. A lot more people know about depression today. Back then, it was not such a big thing. So, I feel like the wrong choice was made based off of, not incorrect facts, but just facts displayed through the wrong methods.
Yeah, but it's not good, but it's not unreasonable, I'd say. Something like that. Typical peak 80s.
Very nice. All right, there's not really much else to talk about for that. If I got something wrong, yell at me. Sure, go for it.
Yeah, man, we need a lot of hate mail. If you want to email us, just email us at tkg. I'm sorry, I gave the wrong email. If you want to email us, just email us at that'skindofcringebro@gmail.com.
Yeah, scream at us, call us, bitches. I don't care.
Exactly. But you know what else that came out that year? That's arguably more important than some case.
I really don't. Let's hear it.
All right. Coming up is we got Shlockbusters, this movie of the week. We got Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
What? That sounds like a pretty terrifying movie. I don't know about you, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I want to know more. What is this?
Well, you watched the movie too. You don't have to do that. But when I first started watching,
that's the point. Come on.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So I wanted to see how popular this movie was first. I kind of compared the stuff, like between, prominent YouTubers, Angry Joe, AVGN, that sort of thing. It's because Wikipedia said it had a cult following. The Rotten Tomatoes, it's sitting at 42% audience, which, I mean, even though the Rotten Tomatoes score isn't a good metric in terms of, 3.5 or lower gets you a negative penalty, like, whatever, but it's sort of popular, because I didn't want to look at a movie that was too big, but I guess it's small enough. So it's a PG horror movie. It actually has 3 sequels to it, made by the same directors, co-writers. It's about killer tomatoes. It's heavily practical effects. They don't have any special effects and whatnot. Explosions are just like smoke clouds. I don't know how they get off fire, because in one of the scenes, like where the military fight off the tomatoes, they use explosions. Yeah, the military. Yeah. They're in California. It's like the regional military. Like everyone's all grouped together, and then they all fight the tomatoes. They have clouds that give off a little bit of fire at the end. I don't know how that works. I don't know what type of components you need to make something like that.
Well, one thing before we continue.
Yeah.
I see here it says this movie is classified as a horror musical. Can you explain that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I think it's got the song for the credits. Actually, admittedly, this song has this musical. Yeah, sure. Why not call it that? This movie has 3 or 4 movies. I think it has 3, as far as I can remember. It's got the intro. It's got the one where the mind break, whatever it's called, Mind Bank. I think it's the advertising firm for the movie. That's in the movie, fictional. They have a song that's actually really good. I like that. That was my favorite movie, and it's got some song at the end. So yeah, it's got some songs there. It wasn't out of place. It worked actually pretty well. Yeah.
Would you classify it as a horror musical movie, or is musical not a term for it?
The thing is, more so, I wouldn't even call it a horror movie because it doesn't have any blood. The closest thing it has is gag blood, which is tomato sauce.
I feel like blood is more suitable for a thriller or a gore fic than a horror movie. You can have a really good horror movie without anyone bleeding once.
Oh, gotcha.
So I think blood's irrelevant for horror specifically, but it does add to suspense.
Fair enough.
But this movie was not at all a horror movie at all.
All the deaths primarily are largely off screen. Nobody drops on the floor on screen, as far as I can remember. Actually, I'm wrong. One person does. One person slowly falls to the ground, obscured by a giant tomato. That's as close you're gonna get. Watch out, PG fellows. We got a couple swears in there. Just a couple. Just PG, right? Watch out there, fellas.
Keeping it family friendly.
Exactly. Yeah. The movie's it's a comedy actually. It's more so heavily reliant on comedy, at least through this period.
It was advertised as a horror musical because the idea of a musical horror is quite comedic in and of itself.
Yeah, I've never.
That's why it has that's why it has those tags. That's what the original producer, I believe, put on his posters. Was Attack of the Killer Tomatoes is the most horrific musical you'll ever watch. And I don't think he meant horrific as in scary.
Yeah, it's one of those some people could call it so bad it's good. I wouldn't. I would just say it's flat out good. It's even a little bit ahead of its time, I'd say. So, Alex, what is the plot of this movie?
Tomatoes that attack and kill people.
Okay, thanks, Alex. That was fantastic. If we're gonna go a little bit further into it, it's a bunch of tomatoes pop up. The thing is, they roll on the ground and there's enough of them. They kill someone. So a lady kills at the beginning of the movie. Some inspectors say, "Oh, hey, what's this? Someone's dying. Look at that. It's tomato juice. Oh, yeah, it's pretty bad, isn't it?" And then they get a bunch of they specifically recruit unknown scientists and whatnot, unknown people of the government. So the story doesn't blow up. So they start figuring out what's going on. More and more people die. Eventually, the public knows. A reporter gets sent on the case to figure out, well, hey, what's going on here? Why aren't you telling us what's going on with it? I want answers. Fair enough. So they actually send out people on the field. Now the main guy of the movie, I think it's Dixon. He's a midget guy. He's a member of the FIA, the Federal Intelligence Administration. He has a ragtag group of people, sends them out to figure out what's going on. Eventually they all die, so he's pretty much on his own, except for one guy. He's a guy. He finishes up his case and he joins him by parachute. Looks like he's kind of in a little time capsule. He's like a 1940s soldier who I guess still thinks it's like the 1940s. Like he's pretty militaristic still. He's pretty energetic. He tries to attack everybody. Like when he first joins the movie, he lands on the car. The guy gets out of the car. The guy points at his compadre, that guy wears disguises and whatnot. He's black, wears disguises. He's disguised as Adolf Hitler. The guy who falls down screams, "That's Adolf Hitler!" Tries to attack him with a sword. The FIA guy, Dixon, just lands him down. He says, "That's not Adolf Hitler. That's Sam Smith. He's disguised as Hitler." You'll find out in the movies. You'll find out throughout the movie. It's a little self-aware, It's got a couple of things, it's got a couple of I'm pretty sure this isn't just because it's my copy. It's got a couple of subtitles that kind of just go across the screen, a little this is for sale, please contact this number. A couple of that. Pretty good stuff, Little self-aware, not too much, my taste.
I think I remember those from my VHS copy I had as a kid.
Oh yeah, as a kid.
I watched that movie way too long ago. I'm 20 now. I got it when I was 3, and I think I had it up till I was 7. Just for reference as to how long ago I actually had that movie.
Oh yeah. So basically, the guy's pretty much got him and his ragtag military soldier guy. They eventually a killer gets thrown into the mix. Someone's trying to kill Dixon, stop him from figuring out the case. They chase him once. The guy gets away. And the administration and the higher up guys in the government, they have a committee try to figure out what's going on. They can't. That takes forever, and eventually they decide to cancel it. So the Dixon, has to figure out what's going on. Let's see what's next. Let's see.
What's next?
Eventually, Dixon is confronted by 2 killer tomatoes. He's stuck in between them. He's in a car. They go away. He starts driving off. He can't figure out what's going on. Eventually, the killer captures him. It turns out the killer was the guy who assigned him to the case in the first place. The guy's able to control the tomatoes. Dixon can't figure out what's going on. Dixon tries to kill him, but the military guy pops in the room and slashes him to death. Just stabs him, just straight up, just. You know.
Dixon or the scientist?
Yeah, the administration guy. Yeah, the guy who assigned him in the first place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, it's pretty comical stuff like that. Kind of a lot of. It's got a couple of fake outs, I'd say. But the movie ends. Turns out there's a song the guy used to control the tomatoes. So Dixon gathers everyone to a stadium that's still alive in the California area. The tomatoes get lured toward them. He plays the song. All of them die except for one tomato. Dare I say, spoilers, guys. There's one tomato that's got earbuffs on. He can't hear the song. But what Dixon does is he takes a musical sheet with the song and he slowly walks up to him, the tomato, and the tomato reads the song notes, and he dies. I thought he was gonna pull out his gun and shoot the tomato, honestly. Genuinely.
No, he just lets the tomato read it.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, I should rewatch this movie.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. Just saying the movie synopsis, it doesn't do it justice. It really it's got.
Have you ever seen a scary movie, Matt?
No, I can't say I have. No.
Oh, I was gonna ask you to compare it to Scary Movie. Scary Movie is a much more mainstream version of one of these movies, where it's just kind of comedic for the sake of being comedic with the theme of horror. Mm. Scary Movie is definitely about 1,000 times more popular. If we cover it, it would be one that a lot of people would already know about.
Oh yeah.
So maybe we should do that next too, or well, let us know what you think.
Yeah, man. Whenever we bring back our Shlockbusters feature, who knows when that is? We'll maybe take a look at it. Keep an eye out, man. Keep an ear open.
Or just bitch enough in the comments until we read it.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, the synopsis doesn't do this movie enough justice. Really, you gotta watch it. The songs, for my opinion, I think I have a pretty low tolerance for songs in movies.
Oh, trust me, he has a low tolerance.
Oh yeah, yeah. The movie's actually pretty good. Like I said, the Mindbusters one, the advertising firm, he has the best song. It's good stuff. Of course, it's got a couple of the movie itself. It's not too well produced. It's got a little bit of continuity errors. Got a little bit of audio cuts. Just because when it jumps to different camera angle, it's nothing too bad. It's for $100,000. See, I'm confused about that budget because if it's $100,000, the helicopter they rented for it is $64,000 apparently. How does that work out? How do you only have $36,000 and you make a movie?
They went all in that movie on one helicopter.
Exactly.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Like I was wondering like how they get pulled off some of those scenes, like the helicopter thing, the crash. Yeah, that was real. Apparently, that was real. I was wondering about that because I didn't see anybody in the helicopter. I was thinking, I don't know how they would stage a crash without, because like this thing was spitting. I don't know how they would stage that in the 1970s without someone in it. It's a little weird.
Yeah, that would be hard to do back then.
Exactly. Yeah, especially considering in the same.
It looks so realistic for the time too. So if it wasn't real, that would have been basically future technology.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah. But it was all practical, so you could. Yeah. It had. Who knows what it would have been if it wasn't real. But in the same exact scene, there was a paraglider, whatever it's called, like a little airplane. The airplane played a little bit safe, so I don't know how. Yeah, I guess it would have been assumed that. I just assumed the helicopter was it was unmanned because the paraglider guy was helicopter guy was airplane, whatever it's called. The airplane guy was playing it pretty safe. But yeah, it's a pretty low budget movie. Oh yeah, in fact, yeah, it reminds me. It was low. It even had like a little quirk. It was low budget. Like the Japanese guy. There was this Jap in the movie, and this scientist guy who seemed to be a sort of translator because the guy understood English, but the guy had to sort of localize the language per se. So the Japanese guy knew English, but somebody dubbed over him. And mind you, the dubs in this movie are actually pretty good. They're pretty on lip sync. This guy being dubbed was very bad. Like it didn't match, and I don't get it. Like,
so the Japanese guy was speaking English, but the joke was that Japanese people can't speak English well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it had to have been it. Yeah, I assume that was a. Yeah, it's one of those things. You know, it's a little.
It's a little racist, but it's also kind of funny for the time.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, because yeah. It's like one of the guys.
You try to pull that today, and you're gonna get like so much shit.
Yeah, exactly. It's not too long a movie, 86 minutes. What do you think?
Would you watch the sequels?
However, actually no. Well, no, I wouldn't watch. I don't think I would. I don't think they would. I don't think they would have the same quality as the first one. You know, just one and done mostly. In fact, one of the scenes, the nighttime scene, I felt was a little bit slow. You know, the nighttime scene where the army fight to the tomatoes. You know, it had a little bit too much exposition shots. In my opinion.
I believe the second one, which is Return of the Killer Tomatoes, is a zombie flick where they took the dead tomatoes and canned them and shipped them off for people to eat, and then they came back to life. I'm not too sure, but if that's the synopsis of the second one, it does interest me personally.
Yeah. Which reminds me, the end of the movie teases a sort of killer carrots, but I don't think a movie with that was ever made. So
no, I think they dropped killer carrots entirely.
Yeah,
they just went back for more tomatoes.
Yeah.
So, is anything else we should talk about, or?
No, man, those are our 3 features. That's kind of cringe. Where the hell is it? Slap Justice and Shlockbusters. That's the show.
Damn. Alright, well, thanks for watching. Hope you didn't cringe too hard, or you cringed hard enough to bust it out or something, I don't know.
If you want to email us with any questions, concerns, suggestions.
Questions, concerns, suggestions, bitchiness, outright hate mail, anything is fine.
Yep, you can.
Hey, if we get any good enough ones, we'll put them in the next podcast.
Exactly. In fact, the email for that is that'skindofcringebro@gmail.com.
Yeah, it's don't go stealing it. The password's 7.
Hey, don't. Why are you doing that, man? You can't do that. We don't. All right. Oh, we're gonna be. All right, that's it. All right, have a good one, guys.
Yeah, just give us money.
Yeah, man, we have a Patreon open. Check the description, man.
Do we really?
No.
Oh.
Yeah. So
we're not cutting that, are we?
No, we're not.